Hi, I'm Christian.
And I'm Paige. Christian, have you ever had an experience that you wanted to last forever?
You know what? There was one time I was snowboarding with a few friends, and it was just a perfect day. The sun was sunny, the snow was snowy, and it was just such an awesome day. I just never wanted it to end.
That sounds incredible. Well, there are many things in our lives that can be great for a specific time, even things like friendships. But then we grow out of it, or people move away, and we have to move on to something else. But one thing we know for sure is that Jesus is the King who rules forever.
That's true. Let's watch today's God story and learn more about that.
If you see a robbery at an Apple store, does it make you an eyewitness? Oh. Hey everyone, it's Marshall, and it's great to see you again. So it's Christmas time. What's your favorite Christmas tradition? Mine is every Christmas Eve, after Christmas Eve service, we go home, turn off the lights, put some candles on, cook some food, and sit on the floor and enjoy a meal together like they would back in the time of the Bible. This time of year is super exciting and fun because it's Christmas time. Let's be real, we're all excited about that. But sometimes we can hear this story over and over again and kind of wash it away and forget about it. This story is about the birth of Jesus, and it's something that we should get excited about every year because it's telling us about the Messiah coming to earth with us. So God's kingdom is different than any other kingdom of this world. Kings come and go, are born and died, but Jesus came and lived forever. Which brings us to today's big idea, that Jesus is the King who rules forever. So at the beginning of this series, we heard about the story of Daniel and how he had this vision of a new kingdom coming. And the king of that kingdom was going to be Jesus. And then last week, we heard about this long list of names and how God worked through them, and which led us to Jesus. So the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, all talk about the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. But the birth of Jesus is only written in Matthew and Luke. So think about it. Think about if 4 people were writing a story about the same person. They would each see something maybe a little bit different than the other. So there's a difference between Matthew and Luke. Luke is a lawyer, so he writes this really long story about how it all happened, where Matthew is just quick and short and to the point of what happened. So both Matthew and Luke each had something unique to write about the birth. So let's see what Matthew said. This is how Jesus, the Messiah, was born. His mother Mary was engaged to be married to Joseph, but before the marriage took place, while she was still a virgin, she became pregnant through the power of the Holy Spirit. Joseph didn't know what to do. Mary just came and told him, "I'm pregnant." He didn't want to be a jerk to Mary, but he didn't think that he could follow through in marrying her. But while he was thinking about it, this is what happened. As he considered this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream. "Joseph, son of David," the angel said, "do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, for the child within her was conceived by the Holy Spirit, and she will have a son, and you are to name him Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins." So the cool part, the name of Jesus actually stands for kind of like a deliverer or a rescuer. So Matthew is quoting from the book Isaiah, where he's talking about the virgin will give birth to a baby, and that baby will be named God is with us. And that so happens to be Jesus is God with us. Then Joseph woke up from his dream, took Mary to marry him, and then, as the angel told him to do, named his son Jesus. When Luke writes about this, he talks about the interaction with Mary and the angel Gabriel. Gabriel told Mary that God is pleased with her and that she is going to give birth to a son, and that she should name that son Jesus. Isn't it cool how God both talked to Mary and Joseph at different times and told them both to name their son Jesus? So Luke writes, "He will be very great and will be called the Son of the Most High. The Lord God will give him the throne of his ancestor David, and he will reign over Israel forever. His kingdom will never end." Isn't it cool how this interaction that Mary's having with Gabriel is referring to or connecting with the passage we read a few weeks ago in Daniel, where Jesus is coming down in a pillar of clouds, and it's referring to this kingdom that Gabriel is talking about. As I said before, God's kingdom is completely different than any other kingdom we have here on earth. And the cool part with Jesus as our king, his kingdom will never end. So this week, as we're celebrating Christmas, remember that we're celebrating the birth of our king and that his kingdom will never end. Merry Christmas, everyone. Have a wonderful time with your family. I'm Marshall. I'll see you later. Peace.
People were waiting for years and years for the Messiah, for the King to come. And when Jesus came, he established a kingdom that was completely different than they expected.
Yeah, let's check in with Dan. He invited friends over, and they discussed what it means to them today, that Jesus is the King who rules forever. Watch this.
Hey friends, I'm Dan, and today we're talking about kings, which is a bit of an interesting subject. I'm here with Calder and Natasha.
Hey.
And the big idea for today is Jesus is the King who rules forever. So let's back up a little bit here. What is a king even? I mean, we live in a day and age where there aren't really that many kings around anymore. What does a king mean to you guys?
Okay, well, to me, a king back in the day, kings would look over their people and care for them and love them. And so in my day-to-day life, with Jesus as king, I can look up to him for guidance, whether it be for small decisions or big decisions. I can look up to him knowing that he is there to love me. And I know that he'll do this for eternity, for all of my life, because we know that Jesus is king forever.
Yeah, that's great. And like having Jesus there as this ultimate authority that is behind us in everything that we do, that's a really comforting thought.
It is, yeah.
Calder, what about you?
Jesus being king forever, to me, means he supports us in everything that we do and provides for us no matter what. I have a personal relationship with him where I feel I can always count on him and I can always talk to him at any time.
Yeah, that's really good. Jesus as king is this sort of ultimate provider of resources, and he's always looking out for our best interests. That's the most comforting thing I can think of.
I like that. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's good. Well, thanks so much for this conversation today, guys, and looking forward to hearing what you guys come up with in your small groups.
Bye.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
I really like the insight we got from Calder and Natasha, especially because many of us don't necessarily connect with the idea of a king or queen ruling our countries.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's break into our small groups and see how this looks like in our own lives.